Hi, welcome to Demo Garage, and in today's episode I'm going to be showing you the replacement of the inner structure of my bonnet. It's one of the very first projects I took on months ago, and I'm pleased to say that it operates really well. This is going to be part one of two, and I hope you enjoy it, so come along for the ride. Thanks.
Yeah, that looks pretty bad. This is how I found the vehicle. The inner frame was completely rusted away in so many areas. It was absolutely unsafe, and it was basically the first project I took on the vehicle. And then it kind of snowballed on me. When I had the bonnet off, it was maybe I should do this or maybe I should do that. But primarily, removing the bonnet was to replace this rusty frame, and that took on its own challenges. So now that you're reminded where this project started back in the middle of June, here's some video clips of the beginning of the process. Thanks.
Okay, well, only time is going to tell if this was a good idea or not. Oh yeah, that just happened. So I was trying to figure out a way I could get easier access to cutting out that framework so I can put in a new one. And yeah, I'll let you know if this is a colossal mistake or not. It's only one way to tell. I'll bring you back. All right, this is a quick video showing the kind of damage I'm dealing with. Maybe that's not rusted through, but there's definitely a bunch of areas that are. This is the reason I'm replacing this framework. Rusted all the way through. I got the fiberglass is split. This bar, I don't know if you can catch, that's definitely rusted through. The glass is split. And again, this edge, yep, this framework is done. And I'm hoping that Gray's frame that I purchased is going to be a close enough match. So, yeah. Fun with TVRs. All right, I'll bring you back. Okay, I have successfully cut out all of the original frame from the TVR hood. It was about as bad as I thought it was going to be, maybe a little worse. There's a lot of vacuumed out metal fragments that isn't being showed here, but it was thoroughly rusted through. And I've cleaned up the inside of the hood, and that currently looks like this. So these are the attachment points. And then of course, this inside edge as well. So I'm not sure the order I'm going to do things. I have initially test fit the new frame, and I know no one's going to be surprised, but it doesn't fit at all. I guess there's enough variation in TVRs that a frame jigged off of one doesn't fit another. So let me set that in place and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, here it is with the frame just set in place, and I do temporarily have the quick disconnect fittings that I purchased in. And I'll have you note that I do have quite a large separation between the two bars just to try and get a little better fit. The bar against this side Obviously the tab isn't bent quite right, and got a pretty big separation between that bar and the side. To be fair, the hood did have quite a bit of a gap at this location. Again here, a lot could be probably gained with bending that tab. And then I'm already in contact with this horizontal edge in the corner. Not sure if this is in focus or not, but. And then I'm seeing the same thing over here. I'm in contact with that edge, and then something could be gained with that tab being bent, and then quite a bit of separation and angle change in location here. So I've been thinking about this a while, and while I would have loved for this frame to just be ready to fit and go in, I think anyone attempting something like this realizes this is not going to be the case. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I might cut this bar off completely. Then I might spend some time and reinstall the bumpers and bend the tabs and get the two sides fitting, angled right. I might cut the welds, open them up in some fashion, try and get the angles better. I've got some experience MIG. I think this is going to be rough enough where TIG is not going to be an option. Not that I could TIG, but yeah. So I think I'm going to try and use this frame as much as possible. I might try and make a jig between this edge and this edge to kind of simulate the spacing on the front of the car. And I might try and use this frame as a starting point. Might get some new steel and replace this bar. Try and tack everything in place, remove it, and do some final weld. Might give it some more thought, but then again, it's a weekend, I've got some time. I might just go to town and start cutting and praying. So it's only money, right? All right, I'll bring you back when I've made a decision or made some progress. Okay, welcome back. It's been a few days since I've done a video, and this one is going to be continuation of the replacement of the steel frame, the pivot point for the hood. As I had expected, the frame did not fit very well. So I started going Western on it a little bit. I started cutting tubes and freeing them up. You can see this tube has been cut most of the way around and bent into shape. This tab needed to be modified. I opened up the hole. I cut back the little tab a little bit. I bent it. I twisted it. Same with this tab, needed some modification. Being the US import frame, it was made of two pieces, and to fit correctly, I've got quite a wide gap here between the two. I assume those are supposed to actually be together, but as TVRs go, nothing's the same. So a lot of modification. Again, this tab required some mods. Again, on this side, hopefully that's in focus. Cut that frame up, modified the tab. I've got it, the fiberglass ground, and needed some modification on this one. Again, I just kind of cut back the tubes most of the way around, and then to the point where I could bend them into shape. It's looking pretty good, pretty happy with the way it's fitting. Of course, I think this bar probably was a lot closer to this bottom edge, so I'm gonna figure out a way that this bottom bar gets fiberglassed in. Haven't figured that out yet. But the next step is for me to weld these tubes back up. And thanks to my buddy Jason, thank you Jason, I've borrowed his welder. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick these tubes back together and I'll bring you back. Okay, I got another 3D printed mold here. And this is gonna be part of reinstalling the new steel frame in the bonnet. So this thing comes together like this. And then I've got a top. I'm gonna fill this with fiberglass resin and chop strand. And then this top is gonna come in and crush it in, and I'm hoping to have a solid form in the shape. I'm gonna treat the inside surfaces with the mold release wax, fill it up, and I'll bring it back. Hopefully I'll be able to remove this mold because I'd like to get a couple of parts out of it. So I'll bring you back when I got something to show. All right. Okay, well here's a moment that I wasn't sure would come. That's not true. I knew everything in good time, but I'm getting ready to actually fiberglass in the new frame. And this frame has been highly modified. Well, I don't know about highly. I cut a bunch of welds and then got these kind of brackets arranged, and I got these bent up against the wall. Same on both sides. So they're close enough to fiberglass in. One of the issues I ran into is I've got this big space between this rod and this bottom edge, and that wasn't the case from the factory. And I don't know if that's something I did when I was arranging, cutting, modifying this frame, or if it's just what I ended up with. But I think I showed video of the molds that I just made, and these are the fiberglass pieces that I've made that are going to help me with this gap I have now. So I made them long, so I'm going to be cutting off this bottom edge, and the idea is that they're going to span this gap between the two and allow me to fiberglass, you know, over this edge and then glass this in. So these eventually will be fitted so that they come in and fill this gap. I made two before my mold died. Yeah, pretty good. These will stand up fine. Made them long, like I said, so that they can be tailored. So I'm gonna have one this edge, one at this edge, and then they'll be trimmed up so that they fill that gap. Pretty pleased with how that turned out. Again, 3D printed molds. That was a lot of heat, so you can see the plastic. Like I was hoping to make 3, but I think I'm gonna end up with 2. I'm not gonna make new molds, I'm gonna go with 2. And then, so these will be glued down to this surface and glued to this, you know, around the bar, and then I'll glass around them. But what I'm gonna focus on right now is I've got them bolted to the bumpers, and I think I'm gonna unscrew these bolts, and then I'm gonna lay some thickened epoxy in the 4 locations, 2 on this side, 2 on the other side, and screw them back in. And then I think what I'm gonna do after that is maybe work on some fillets or something with some fiberglass reinforced thickened resin, and I'm going to start filling these in, and I'm going to fill in all 4 locations. And I feel like I'm just going to kind of go for it. I have an idea what I'm going to do. I'm going to get these 4 locations glassed in, and then after that I'm going to worry about glassing in this bar and the opposite one, and these 2 fiberglass pieces I made. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do next. This is a very important step to getting the bonnet back on, and I will bring you back when I got something to show you. I'm not sure how far I'm going to go before I bring the camera back in, but wish me luck. Hopefully I won't need the luck and the good wishes, but yeah, I'll bring you back. Okay, well, here's what the first application of fiberglass to the frame looks like. It occurred to me that I'm gonna probably want to be able to remove the front bumpers, and that's not going to be doable if I bury these fasteners. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 or 2 more applications of fiberglass until the substructure is somewhat more secure, and then I 3D printed some spacers. And so what I'm going to do is one at a time, I'm going to pull that bolt out, install this spacer, and then reinstall the bolt. And then I'm thinking when I build up the fiberglass in those pockets, I'll be creating kind of a little tunnel to pull that bolt and washer out. So if the 3D print gets stuck in there, I can always break it out when the fiberglass is fully cured. So I'm going to do a couple more applications of glass, building it up around things that aren't related to the fastener. So I'll bring you back when I got something more to share. Okay, bringing you up for another update. I have the fiberglass pieces that I made from those molds. Pretty sure I'm going to include some sort of a previous clip about the 3D printed molds I made. So this horizontal bar used to be in line with this edge from factory, but I've made, so the whole part of this is I'm putting in a whole new structure, and it did not fit. That's probably due to variation in TVR processes, but anyway, I cut open welds and I got it as good as I could go, and I'm fiberglassing it back in, but I had this crazy gap. Like I said, this bar used to be along here and it was fiberglassed over, so now I've made these fiberglass blocks that I'm going to glue in and fiberglass over. So I'm going to be tying in this bottom edge to the frame. I don't know if it's as good as original. I think the quality of construction is probably going to be fairly high, but maybe I'll add some additional thickness to this edge, but I think it's going to be fine. I've had a couple layers of glassing done, and I have now added these 3D printed spacers in 4 locations. So I'm going to be glassing in the remainder of these mounting points that go through into the bumper sections. And maybe I'm making everyone seasick, but I'll try and stay here. Anyway, I'm expecting that I'm going to glass these in, and then we'll be breaking out the 3D printed molds. They're just to be kind of a tunnel so that I can remove the bolts in the future and remove the bumper. If I didn't go to this technique, then I would be glassing over the bolts, and then I wouldn't be able to remove the steel bumperettes in the future, and I do want to remove them in the future, replace or chrome over or whatever. Anyway, so the frame is fairly well structurally in place that I was able to remove the bolts so that I could put in the tubes, the 3D printed tubes. And I'm going to go ahead and glue in these blocks as well. Okay, it's done. The frame is finally installed in the bonnet. It's all fiberglassed in. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've got the bar, and I think I explained I had to make up some fiberglass pieces because the modification the bar needed to fit and be glassed into these 4 locations. I had to cut welds and bend everything in place so that happened. So yeah, so when I got it all in here and welded it back up, I had this gap. Obviously this bar is supposed to be touching this bottom edge, and it wasn't, and I wasn't gonna cut this one longer. I made up some fiberglass boxes there. That's the molds that I showed earlier. I've glued them in, and then I've glassed around them. All the bars are glassed into place, and I put in the 3D printed little bungs in all those locations, so you can still remove the bumperette. Pretty pleased how it looks, and I'm really hoping that when I install the threaded rod and the rod end or heim joint close on the vehicle. But I have my welder. I don't expect it to be close. I expect to need to modify the front of the car for this new position, but I am gonna end this video here. It's been many months. The frame is installed. I think it's really strong. Can't do anything about the position here, so I'm gonna make it up on the car frame. So I want to thank you for joining me. This is probably going to be a fairly long video. Thanks for joining me on Demo Garage, and I hope you have a great evening.